Welcome to the Chosen One. Do you know what happens when the ungodly touch the holy? Do you realize what occurs when profane hands reach for sacred fire? Have you ever wondered why your spirit recoils when certain people get too close, like your soul knows they don't belong in your atmosphere? Listen to me, Chosen One. Being near you is not casual, it's sacred ground. But they've been walking all over you like it's a backyard barbecue instead of the temple you are. They've been treating your presence like a convenience store when you're actually a cathedral. They better be careful with you, because heaven is watching every single interaction. You see, there's something they don't understand about you. When they step into your energy field, they're not just meeting another person. They're entering a frequency that makes demons tremble and angels take notes. Your presence doesn't just fill a room, it sanctifies it. But here's what's been happening. They've been mishandling the miraculous. They've been casual with what cost heaven everything to create. They've been reckless with what generations of your bloodline died praying for. They looked at royalty and treated it like a peasant. They touched divine fire and wondered why their lives started burning. You've felt it, haven't you? That ache in your chest when they dismissed you. That spiritual nausea when they minimized your worth. That wasn't rejection, beloved. That was your spirit recognizing the disconnect between who you are and how you were being treated. They don't get to determine your value. Heaven already did that. And before we go deeper into this prophetic word, I want to thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here, your support, your time, your attention. It all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of support. But right now, I need to know something. If you've ever felt people mishandled you, if you've ever felt them treat your heart like it was cheap, your time like it was worthless, your energy like it was their right to drop a 777-inch, the comments right now. Let's expose this together, because what I'm about to reveal will shake every lie they told about you, and every lie you believed about yourself. Your presence isn't an accident, it's an assignment, and they're about to learn the difference. Why do rooms get quieter when you walk in? Why do conversations stop mid-sentence when your energy arrives? Why do people suddenly start confessing things they've never told anyone? Just because you're present? There's something about you that science is finally catching up to, and the Bible has been declaring for thousands of years. Your heart, yes, your physical heart, generates an electromagnetic field that extends 8 to 10 feet beyond your body. The Heart Math Institute has proven this. Every single heartbeat creates electrical impulses that can be measured by sensitive equipment from several feet away. But here's what they can't measure: the spiritual frequency that rides on those electromagnetic waves. Jesus said it perfectly in Luke 6:45, "Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks." But beloved, he wasn't just talking about words. He was revealing that your heart is a broadcasting station, transmitting the content of your soul into the atmosphere around you. And your heart carries a frequency that most people have never encountered. You see, when trauma tried to break you, when betrayal attempted to embitter you, when loss threatened to hollow you out, something miraculous happened instead. Your heart didn't just heal. It became a tuning fork for truth. Every lie now sounds off-key in your presence. Every fake smile feels like fingernails on a chalkboard to your spirit. That's why people get uncomfortable around you without knowing why. That's why manipulators suddenly forget their scripts when you're in the room. That's why liars start stumbling over their own words. You're not just light in the room. You are the frequency that makes hidden lies tremble. Think about this. Have you ever noticed how certain people avoid eye contact with you, how they fidget when you're near, how they suddenly need to leave the conversation when you arrive? They're not reacting to your personality, they're reacting to your purity. Their darkness cannot coexist with your light. The electromagnetic field of your heart is carrying the signature of heaven itself. And when someone living in deception encounters that frequency, their internal lies start short-circuiting. They feel exposed without you saying a word. They feel convicted without you preaching a sermon. This is why David could walk into King Saul's presence and cause demons to flee just by playing his harp. The frequency of his heart, tuned to God's heart, created an atmosphere that evil could not tolerate. You have that same anointing, that same electromagnetic sanctification flowing through your being. But here's where it gets deeper. The scientific community has discovered that when two people are in close proximity, their heart rhythms begin to synchronize. But with you, something different happens. You don't synchronize to their frequency, they either elevate to yours, or they flee from the discomfort of the mismatch. Remember when Jesus walked through the crowds in Luke 4, and the people were either drawn to him with desperate hunger or filled with murderous rage? There was no middle ground. Your presence creates the same phenomenon. People either experience breakthrough or breakdown in your atmosphere. And this terrifies those who've built their identity on lies. When you survived what should have destroyed you, when you chose forgiveness over bitterness, when you selected love over revenge, your heart literally rewired itself. The electromagnetic signature you now carry is the frequency of the resurrection. Death couldn't hold you. Betrayal couldn't embitter you. Loss couldn't hollow you. You became a walking, breathing testimony that victory is possible. This is why your former friends don't call anymore. This is why family members act strange around you. This is why people who once felt comfortable lying to you now avoid you altogether. Your frequency has changed. You're broadcasting truth, and they're living in deception. The Bible calls this being transformed by the renewing of your mind in Romans 12:2. But science calls it neuroplasticity, your brain literally rewiring itself based on your experiences and choices. And when your mind renewed, your heart's electromagnetic field shifted to match. You became dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. Every toxic person who can no longer stand to be around you is proof that you're operating on a higher frequency. Every fake friend who suddenly found reasons to distance themselves is evidence that your spiritual electromagnetic field is working exactly as God designed it. But here's the revelation that will change everything for you. You don't just enter a room, you rewire it. The moment you step into any space, the atmospheric pressure changes. The spiritual climate shifts. The electromagnetic frequency of that environment begins to align with the signature your heart is broadcasting. And people either rise to meet that frequency or they reveal their inability to exist in that level of truth. This is why Jesus said in Matthew 10:14, "If anyone will not welcome you or listen to your words, leave that home or town and shake the dust off your feet." He wasn't being harsh. He was being scientific. Some environments cannot hold the frequency you carry, and forcing the connection will only drain you. Your presence is not neutral. It's prophetic. It's electromagnetic evangelism happening at the cellular level. When people say you've changed, they're not imagining it. Your literal molecular structure has been altered by your choices to forgive, to heal, to love, despite the pain. And now you carry a frequency that most people have only experienced in their deepest prayers or their most desperate moments. You are the answer to someone's prayer, walking around in human form. But this also means you can no longer afford to be casual about who gets access to your energy field. You can't let just anyone into your 8-foot electromagnetic radius, because your heart is broadcasting heaven's frequency, and not everyone is ready for that level of truth. The question isn't whether you have this power. Science and scripture both confirm you do. The question is, are you going to steward this frequency with the reverence it deserves? Comment below if you've ever felt people shift in your presence without you saying a word, because I need you to understand that wasn't coincidence. That was your heart's electromagnetic field, doing exactly what God designed it to do. And if they can't handle your frequency now, wait until you discover what happens when you stop dimming it to make others comfortable. Now that we've established the sacred nature of your presence, I need to tell you something that's going to revolutionize how you see yourself forever. They thought you were ordinary, but you are living proof that God still shows up in human form. Listen to me carefully, beloved. When the Almighty wanted to demonstrate His power in this generation, He didn't choose the polished. He didn't select the perfect. He picked you, scars and all, wounds and all, battle-tested and fire-proven. You see those marks on your soul? Those aren't disqualifications, they're your credentials. Every scar tells a story of divine intervention. Every wound whispers of supernatural sustenance. Every battle you survived is evidence that heaven's army was fighting alongside you when no human hand reached down to help. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been looking at those scars like they make you less valuable. You've been hiding your wounds like they disqualify you from God's presence. Child, those scars are your resume. Those wounds are your testimony. That pain you carry, it's your proof of divinity. The enemy convinced you that broken things can't be holy. But what does Scripture say? He heals the broken-hearted and binds up their wounds. Psalm 147:3. God doesn't heal you despite your brokenness. He specializes in it. He's attracted to it. He gravitates toward the wounded because that's where His power shines brightest. You think Moses looked qualified when God called him from that burning bush? The man had a stutter, a murder on his record, and 40 years of failure in the wilderness. No royal robe, no crown, no credentials. Just scars from running, wounds from hiding, and the smell of sheep on his clothes. But when he stood before Pharaoh, what happened? The most powerful empire on earth trembled, not because of Moses' resume, but because of the presence he carried, the same presence that's walking around in your skin right now. David? A shepherd boy with dirty fingernails and calloused hands. No armor, no training, no military experience, just a heart that beat in rhythm with heaven and 5 smooth stones. But when he walked onto that battlefield, giants fell. Why? Because he carried something the trained soldiers couldn't recognize, divine appointment wrapped in human flesh. You keep waiting for God to use you when you're cleaned up, when you're healed up, when you're qualified up. But beloved, He's been using you all along. Every tear you cried in secret was watering someone else's breakthrough. Every prayer you whispered in pain was shifting atmospheres you'll never see. Every time you chose to keep going when quitting made more sense, you were demonstrating God's power to a watching world. That glow people see when they look at you, that's not makeup, honey. That's not good lighting. That's the Shekinah glory of the Most High reflecting off your surrendered life. That peace you carry in the middle of chaos, that's supernatural. That strength you find when you should be depleted, that's divine. But here's what they didn't tell you in church. Here's what the religious folks won't preach because it's too radical, too dangerous, too powerful for their comfort zones. You are God walking in human form, not in the blasphemous sense, but in the biblical sense. Greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. 1 John 4:4. The same Spirit that raised Christ from the dead dwells in you. Romans 8:11. You are the temple of the living God. 1 Corinthians 6:19. When people encounter you, they're not just meeting another human being, they're having a divine encounter whether they realize it or not. Your presence carries the same power that parted the Red Sea, the same authority that calmed storms, the same love that conquered death. This is why they're so uncomfortable around you. This is why your silence makes them nervous. This is why your peace threatens their chaos. They can sense something they can't name, can't control, can't manipulate. They're in the presence of the sacred, and their flesh is reacting to the spirit you carry. But you've been apologizing for your power. You've been dimming your light to make others comfortable. You've been shrinking your presence to fit into spaces too small for your assignment. Stop it. Right now, stop it. Every time you minimize your worth, you're minimizing God's investment in you. Every time you question your value, you're questioning His judgment. Every time you hide your light, you're robbing the world of a divine encounter. Those silent battles you fought, those weren't just personal struggles. Those were cosmic confrontations. You were fighting for more than your own sanity. You were fighting for the destiny of everyone God plans to touch through your life. The enemy knew if he could break you, he could stop a movement. If he could silence you, he could prevent an awakening. But he failed. You're still here. You're still standing. You're still breathing. You're still believing. And that, beloved one, is not luck. That's not coincidence. That's not good fortune. That's God refusing to let His investment fail. You didn't just survive the fire, you became the fire. You didn't just walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you lit up the valley. You didn't just overcome, you became the overcomer that others will follow. Stop looking for validation from people who can't even validate themselves. Stop seeking approval from those who don't have the spiritual eyes to see what you carry. Stop waiting for permission from those who are threatened by your very existence. You are proof that God hasn't given up on humanity. You are evidence that miracles still happen. You are living documentation that the Almighty still shows up in ordinary flesh to do extraordinary things. Your survival itself is a sermon. Your recovery is a revival. Your restoration is a revolution. If you really know that your survival itself is evidence of God's power, hit that like button right now. Don't just watch this message, participate in it. Let your like be your agreement with heaven, that you will no longer hide what God has revealed. Because what I'm about to show you next will explain why access to you isn't just a privilege, it's a spiritual test that most people are failing miserably. But here's where most people get it twisted, and here's where you've been getting it wrong too. Chosen one. You've been handing out access to your sacred space like it's a free sample at Costco. You've been treating your presence like a public park when it's actually a private sanctuary that requires divine clearance. Access to you is spiritual permission, not social coincidence. Let me break this down for you because this revelation is about to change everything. Every single person who stepped into your life, every friend, every family member, every romantic interest, every co-worker, every neighbor, they weren't just randomly placed there. They were given a divine test, a spiritual examination with only two possible outcomes, honor or mishandle. And beloved, let me tell you the truth that's going to sting. Most of them failed. They failed miserably. You see, when God places someone in proximity to His chosen ones, it's not casual. It's not coincidence. It's not luck of the draw. The Bible tells us in Psalms 37-23 that the steps of a good person are ordered by the Lord. That means every encounter, every relationship, every conversation was orchestrated by heaven itself. But here's what they didn't understand. Your life is like a visa to a higher realm, and mishandling you, that's like breaking heaven's immigration law. Think about it. When someone gets a visa to enter a sacred country, there are rules, there are protocols, there are consequences for violation. You don't just waltz into the Vatican and start playing hopscotch on the altar. You don't enter the Holy of Holies and start cracking jokes. But that's exactly what they've been doing with you. They've been treating your heart like a gas station bathroom. They've been handling your emotions like cheap plastic toys. They've been approaching your wisdom like it's free advice on a street corner. They've been accessing your energy like it's a 24-hour convenience store, taking whatever they want, whenever they want it, without permission, without gratitude, without reverence. And you've been letting them. You've been so desperate to be loved, so hungry to be accepted, so afraid of being alone, that you've been handing out backstage passes to people who should barely qualify for the parking lot. But beloved, listen to me closely. When Jesus walked the earth, not everyone got access. Matthew 7-6 warns us, "Do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine." That sounds harsh, doesn't it? But it's not cruel, it's protective. It's wisdom. It's boundary setting from the King of Kings himself. Your presence carries weight that most people can't handle. Your energy vibrates at a frequency that exposes lies, reveals truth, and demands authenticity. When shallow people encounter deep souls, they don't rise to meet you, they try to drag you down to their level. Remember what happened to Jesus when he returned to his hometown. Mark 6-4 records his words. "A prophet is not without honor except in his own country, among his own relatives, and in his own house." Even the Son of God experienced the pain of being undervalued by those who should have known his worth. But here's the part that's going to revolutionize your thinking. Every person who disrespected you, every individual who took your kindness for weakness, every soul who mistook your gentleness for gullibility, they weren't just hurting you. They were failing a cosmic test. They were given divine assignment. Here is one of my chosen ones. Handle with reverence. And instead of honoring the assignment, they treated it like a joke. Your ex, who called you too much when you shared your dreams, failed the test. Your family member who dismissed your spiritual gifts failed the test. Your friend, who only called when they needed something, failed the test. Your co-worker, who stole your ideas and took credit, failed the test. But here's what's going to shake you to your core. Their failure wasn't your fault. Their inability to recognize gold doesn't make you brass. Their spiritual blindness doesn't dim your light. Their poverty of spirit doesn't make you broke. You see, chosen one, you've been thinking that rejection means you're rejectable. But what if I told you that rejection is actually protection? What if I told you that every door that slammed in your face was heaven saying, "Not them. They're not worthy of what I've placed inside you"? The prophet Isaiah understood this. In Isaiah 55:8-9, God declares, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, nor are your ways my ways. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." You operate from a higher frequency, a different dimension, a sacred space that most people don't even know exists. When they look at you, they see flesh and blood, but heaven sees a walking prophecy, a living testament, a breathing miracle. Your presence is not a playground, it's a prophecy. Every word you speak carries creative power. Every prayer you whisper moves mountains. Every tear you shed is collected in heaven's bottles. Every step you take shifts atmospheric pressure in the spiritual realm. You think I'm exaggerating? Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how the energy changes when you walk into a room? Have you ever watched people suddenly start confessing things they've never told anyone? Have you ever seen marriages heal, addictions break, depression lift, just because you showed up and loved people well? That's not coincidence, beloved. That's the anointing. But here's the truth that's going to set you free and terrify your enemies at the same time. From this moment forward, access to you is earned, not assumed. Proximity to your power is a privilege, not a right. Being in your presence is an honor that must be respected, not a casual encounter to be taken lightly. The days of casting your pearls before swine are over. The season of letting people treat your temple like a tourist attraction has ended. The time of allowing spiritual trespassers to violate your sacred space is finished. You are not a public accommodation. You are a private revelation. You are not a hotel lobby where anyone can sit. You are a penthouse suite that requires special access codes. And those codes, they're written in the language of honor, respect, reciprocity, and recognition of the divine within you. So right now, I need you to understand something that's going to change how you move for the rest of your life. Every relationship moving forward will be measured by one standard. Do they recognize the sacred in you, or are they just here for what they can get? Do they approach you with reverence or with entitlement? Do they honor your boundaries, or do they push past them? Do they add to your peace, or do they drain your energy? Do they celebrate your light, or do they try to dim it? Type "I am the standard" in the comments if you feel this truth burning in your spirit right now. Because what's coming next is going to show you exactly what happens when people violate heaven's immigration laws and why the consequences are already chasing them down. See, there's a difference between those who perform power and those who are power. There's a canyon between those who shout their authority and those who carry it in their DNA. You, chosen one, you don't walk into rooms demanding respect. You walk in, and respect automatically rises to meet you. They've called you intimidating, haven't they? Said you're too much or too intense. But here's what they're really saying. Your authenticity is so pure, it's exposing every fake thing about me, and I can't handle it. You see, Jesus never had to tell people he was the Son of God. His presence did the preaching. When he walked into the synagogue, demons started screaming. When he stepped onto boats, storms got quiet. When he entered rooms, the spiritually sensitive fell on their faces. Not because he was loud, because he was real. Matthew 8:27 says, "What kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him." They weren't responding to his voice. They were responding to his frequency. And that's you, beloved. That's your frequency. But let me tell you what's been happening. You've been surrounded by people who mistake volume for power. They think if they talk louder, interrupt more, control the conversation, manipulate the narrative, they think that makes them powerful. But you know what real power looks like? Real power is you walking into a room full of liars, and suddenly they can't remember their stories. Real power is you sitting in silence while someone's throwing a tantrum, and your stillness making them feel foolish. Real power is you not defending yourself, and watching their accusations crumble under the weight of their own emptiness. You don't need to raise your voice because your presence is already speaking in frequencies they can't ignore. You don't need to prove your worth because your energy is writing checks their insecurity can't cash. But here's where it gets deep. Here's where this word cuts to the bone. They've labeled you intimidating because they've never been in the presence of someone who doesn't need their validation to breathe. They've called you too intense because they've lived so long in shallow water, they forgot what the deep end feels like. They've said you're hard to approach because they're used to people who compromise their truth to make others comfortable. But you, chosen one, you stopped compromising a long time ago, didn't you? You stopped shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were too small for your calling. You stopped dimming your light to make insecure people feel better about their darkness. You stopped explaining your boundaries to people who never respected them anyway. And that's when it happened. That's when they started calling you intimidating. Let me ask you something that's going to shake you to your core. What if what they call intimidating is actually what heaven calls anointing? What if what they call too much is actually what God calls just right? What if your intensity isn't a flaw? It's the fire of the Holy Spirit that they can't handle because they've been living in lukewarm religion their whole lives. Revelation 3:16 says, "Because you are lukewarm, neither hot nor cold, I am about to spit you out of my mouth. But you, beloved, You burn with holy fire. You carry the intensity of someone who's been touched by the living God, and that heat makes cold people uncomfortable. They shout because they're empty. You're silent because you're full. They perform because they're insecure. You simply are because you're established. They manipulate because they're powerless. You influence because power flows through you like a river. Here's what's really happening when you walk into a room. Your spirit is having conversations their spirit can't participate in. Your frequency is operating on channels their brokenness can't tune into. Your authenticity is calling out their performance, and they don't know how to respond. So they call you intimidating. But let me tell you what you really are. You're not intimidating, you're authentic. And authenticity terrifies people who've built their entire identity on lies. You're not too intense, you're too real for people who live in fantasy. You're not hard to approach, you're impossible to manipulate, and that frustrates controllers. See, when Jesus walked this earth, the religious leaders called him a troublemaker. The Pharisees said he was dangerous. The politicians said he was a threat to their system. But the broken, the hurting, the genuine seekers, they couldn't get close enough to him. Why? Because broken people recognize authentic power. Hurting people are drawn to real healing. Sincere seekers can sense genuine truth. But the fake, the fraudulent, the spiritually dead, they recoil from authenticity like vampires from sunlight. That's why some people can't handle being around you for too long. It's not because you're mean or harsh or unkind. It's because your authenticity is like a spiritual X-ray machine, and they don't want their brokenness exposed. Your presence forces people to confront the lie they've been living. Your authenticity makes their performance look cheap. Your genuine spirit highlights their fake one. And instead of rising to match your frequency, they try to drag you down to theirs. But here's what they don't understand. You can't dim a light that God himself lit. You can't silence a voice that heaven amplified. You can't intimidate someone whose confidence comes from the creator of the universe. You embody power because power embodies you. You carry authority because the ultimate authority lives in you. You don't need to announce yourself because your Father already announced you before the foundation of the world. Ephesians 1-4 says, He chose us in him before the creation of the world to be holy and blameless in his sight. You were chosen before time began. You were set apart before the first star was hung. You were anointed before your first breath. So when they call you intimidating, remind yourself, I am exactly who God designed me to be. When they say, you're too much, remember, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. When they can't handle your intensity, understand, they're not rejecting me, they're rejecting the God in me. But here's the question that's going to determine your destiny. Are you going to keep apologizing for the way God made you, or are you going to start walking in the fullness of who you were created to be? Now listen carefully, because what I'm about to reveal will shake the very foundations of how you see yourself and your lineage. Your aura holds the codes your bloodline couldn't unlock. You think your struggles were random. You think your pain was purposeless. You think you've been walking through hell for no reason. Think again, chosen one. Every tear you've shed, every betrayal you've endured, every night you've cried out to God in desperation, it was all part of unlocking something your ancestors carried but couldn't access. You are not just living your life, you are completing their unfinished business. Your great-grandmother prayed for breakthrough she never saw. Your grandfather carried dreams he never fulfilled. Your bloodline has been passing down a spiritual inheritance for generations, and it landed in you, not by accident, not by luck, by divine appointment. Do you know why certain people in your family line struggled with the same patterns? Why addiction ran through your bloodline? Why poverty seemed to follow your family name? Why depression, anxiety, and defeat felt like a family heirloom passed down from generation to generation. Because the enemy knew. He knew that one day someone would be born into that bloodline who would carry the code to break it all. Someone who would have the spiritual authority, the divine favor, and the holy fire to burn down every curse and unlock every blessing that had been held captive. That someone is you. The Bible tells us in Genesis 37 about Joseph. His brothers looked at him and saw a dreamer. They saw someone who talked too much about his visions. They saw someone who seemed to think he was special. Sound familiar? They couldn't interpret the codes he carried. They couldn't understand why he was different. So what did they do? They sold him into slavery. But here's what they didn't understand. You cannot sell what God has sealed. You cannot destroy what heaven has destined. You cannot break what the Almighty has blessed. Joseph carried codes his brothers couldn't crack. He had access to realms they couldn't reach. He could interpret dreams, survive betrayal, and rise from prison to palace because he wasn't just Joseph. He was the walking prophecy his father Jacob had been praying for. He was the breakthrough his grandfather Isaac had been believing for. He was the promise his great-grandfather Abraham had received under the stars. And chosen one. The same thing is happening in your bloodline right now. Your family might not understand you. They might look at you sideways when you talk about your calling. They might think you're too spiritual, too sensitive, too different. They might have treated you like the black sheep, the odd one out, the one who doesn't fit. Good. That's confirmation you're carrying something they can't comprehend. You see, every person in your family line who struggled with lack, they were storing up breakthrough for you. Every ancestor who died broke, they were depositing spiritual currency into your account. Every forefather who battled depression, they were clearing the path for your joy. Every grandmother who prayed through tears, she was downloading authority into your DNA. You are not just healing for yourself. You are healing backwards and forwards. When you break that generational curse of poverty, you're not just changing your bank account, you're changing the destiny of your children and your children's children. When you break that cycle of toxic relationships, you're not just protecting your heart, you're protecting your entire bloodline from repeating those patterns. But here's what's been happening. The enemy has been whispering lies to make you believe you're cursed instead of chosen. He's been showing you your family's failures to make you think that's your ceiling. He's been replaying your parents' mistakes to convince you that's your destiny. Stop believing those lies. Your bloodline struggles weren't your inheritance, they were your assignment. You weren't born to repeat their patterns, you were born to break them. You weren't born to carry their curses. You were born to release their blessings. Do you know why you've survived things that should have destroyed you? Do you know why you've walked through valleys that would have broken others? Do you know why you keep rising every time life knocks you down? Because you're carrying the prayers of generations in your DNA. Your grandmother's midnight prayers are in your bloodstream. Your great-grandfather's tears are in your tears. But his breakthrough is in your breakthrough. Every time they said, "Lord, let somebody in our family line make it," they were talking about you. You are the walking prophecy your ancestors died praying for. You are the dream they saw but never lived to see fulfilled. You are the promise they held on to when everything looked impossible. You are the breakthrough they believed for when all they could see was breakdown. And the enemy knows this. That's why the attacks on your life have been so intense. That's why the betrayals cut so deep. That's why the opposition has been so fierce. Because he knows that if you ever fully step into who you are, if you ever completely unlock the codes in your bloodline, if you ever fully activate the authority that's been dormant in your DNA, game over. Not just for your family, for every family that looks like yours, for every bloodline that's been waiting for someone to show them it's possible, for every generation that's been praying for proof that the curse can be broken. You are not just a person, you are a portal. You are not just an individual. You are an entire generational shift walking in human form. You are not just surviving. You are rewriting the story of everyone who shares your blood. But you have to step into it. You have to stop apologizing for being different. You have to stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You have to stop playing small when you're carrying the dreams of the dead and the hopes of the unborn. This is bigger than you. This is about every ancestor who died believing, and every descendant who will live, because you decided to walk in the fullness of what God placed in your bloodline. The codes are unlocking. The time is now. The breakthrough your family has been praying for generations is about to manifest through your obedience to your calling. Comment, "I carry the code," if you know you're breaking generational cycles. Let me see who's ready to step into their ancestral authority, because what happens next is going to prove that your presence isn't just a privilege, it's a prophetic fulfillment that's been 100 years in the making. Now we need to talk about something that's going to shake you to your core. Something that's been happening behind the scenes while you've been wondering why life feels so heavy, why relationships keep crumbling around certain people, why some folks can't seem to catch a break no matter how hard they try. Every person who dishonored you triggered spiritual receipts. Listen carefully. Chosen one. When someone mistreats you, they're not just hurting your feelings. They're not just being rude or inconsiderate. They're tampering with heaven's property. They're putting their hands on what God himself has set apart, sanctified, and sealed with his own blood. You think that's dramatic? Let me tell you what's dramatic. Lying on you is like punching a flame and wondering why their own hands are burning. It's like spitting in a river and expecting the current to flow backward. It's like cursing the sun and wondering why their world went dark. The Bible tells us in Psalm 105:15, "Touch not mine anointed, and do my prophets no harm." That's not a suggestion, beloved. That's a spiritual law as fixed as gravity. When they dishonored you, they didn't just cross you, they crossed the one who chose you. Think about it. How many people have you watched self-destruct after they came for you? How many have you seen lose their peace, their relationships, their clarity, their very minds after they decided to make you their target? You thought it was coincidence. You thought it was just life happening. But no, dear one, this is not karma in a petty sense. This is cosmic accounting. When Miriam spoke against Moses in Numbers 12, she didn't just get a slap on the wrist. She got leprosy. When Haman plotted against Mordecai, he didn't just lose his job. He lost his life on the very gallows he built for another. When Jezebel came against Elijah, she didn't just face embarrassment. She was thrown from a window and eaten by dogs. This is what happens when finite minds challenge infinite purposes, when temporary people try to touch eternal assignments. Remember that boss who made your life hell? Where are they now? That friend who betrayed your secrets and painted you as the villain. How's their peace looking these days? That family member who consistently dismissed your worth and treated you like you were nothing. Check their life lately. You see, when they opened their mouth against you, they opened a door they couldn't close. When they lifted their hand against you, they lifted it against the one who formed you in his image. And the same God who said, "Vengeance is mine, I will repay," in Romans 12:19, he keeps his word. But here's what's breaking my heart. You've been carrying guilt about their downfall. You've been wondering if somehow you caused it. You've been feeling responsible for their consequences. Stop that right now. You didn't curse them. You didn't send evil their way. You didn't even pray for their destruction. But you are covered by a covenant they couldn't see, protected by a power they couldn't comprehend, shielded by a love they couldn't fathom. When they chose to dishonor you, they chose to stand against the very force that created the universe. They chose to fight the God who spoke light into darkness, who breathed life into dust, who called you by name before you were formed in your mother's womb. And now they're learning what it feels like when heaven itself withdraws its favor, when divine protection lifts, when the very air they breathe becomes heavy with the weight of their own choices. Look at their patterns now. They can't hold relationships. They can't find peace. They can't sleep without anxiety medication. They can't look in the mirror without seeing the lies they told reflected back at them. They can't move forward because every step reminds them of what they lost when they lost you. Your absence is not emptiness. It's judgment. When you walked away, you didn't just remove yourself. You removed the covering that your presence provided. You removed the light that your spirit brought. You removed the blessing that your energy carried into every space. They thought they were getting rid of a problem. They didn't realize they were evicting their own breakthrough. They thought they were silencing opposition. They didn't know they were muting their own answers. They thought they were eliminating competition. They failed to understand they were destroying their own elevation. The prophet Isaiah warned in chapter 54-17, "No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn." Did you catch that? Every tongue, not some, not most, every single one. That means every lie they told is now a noose around their own neck. Every rumor they spread is now a trap under their own feet. Every reputation they tried to destroy has become a mirror showing them their own destruction. This is why you've been feeling that strange mixture of sadness and vindication. Your spirit recognizes justice, even when your heart still holds compassion. You're not cold for feeling relieved when you see them struggling. You're awake, and to those who are still in your life but treating you carelessly, who are still taking your presence for granted, who are still operating like access to you is automatic. This is their warning. This is their chance to course correct before they join the ranks of those who learned too late what they had lost. Because here's what's coming next, chosen one. Here's what heaven is preparing for those who honor you, who recognize the treasure they're in the presence of, who understand that proximity to you is not casual but sacred. But that's a revelation for the next part of your journey. Right now, I need you to understand something that will set you free from every ounce of guilt you've been carrying about their consequences. You are not responsible for what happens to people who choose to fight God. Listen, beloved. I need to tell you something that's going to shatter every lie the enemy whispered in your ear about your light. They told you that you shine too bright. They said you're doing too much. They accused you of performing, of seeking attention, of being dramatic. But let me tell you what your radiance really is. Your glow didn't come from filters, makeup, or spotlights. It came from nights when you cried yourself to sleep and still woke up praising God. It came from seasons when you had every reason to curse heaven, but chose to bless it instead. Your radiance isn't performance, it's survival crystallized into light. You think David wrote Psalm 23 from a throne? No, beloved. He penned, "The Lord is my shepherd," while dodging spears in caves, while running for his life, while his own king wanted him dead. His words didn't come from comfort. They came from the valley of the shadow of death, where he learned that even there, God's rod and staff would comfort him. That's your story too. Every time you felt invisible, unheard, overlooked, that wasn't God abandoning you. That was heaven teaching you to shine from the inside out. Because when the world goes dark, chosen ones don't wait for someone else to flip the switch. They become the light. You've been carrying scars they can't see and a strength they can't understand. While they were posting filtered selfies, you were filtering pain through prayer. While they were performing happiness, you were transforming heartbreak into holiness. You don't shine because of a spotlight. You shine because you survived the dark and refused to dim. Isaiah 60:1 says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you." Notice it doesn't say perform, shine, or pretend. shine. It says, arise and shine, because your light comes from getting back up when everything in you wanted to stay down. They see your glow now and think it's easy. They see your peace and assume it's privilege. They see your wisdom and call it luck. But you and I know the truth. That radiance cost you sleepless nights. That peace was purchased with tears they'll never count. That wisdom was earned in classrooms called betrayal, abandonment, and loss. You've been in places so dark that your own shadow left you. You've walked through valleys so low that hell itself looked down on you. But here's what they don't understand. You weren't just surviving those moments. You were being refined in them. Malachi 3:3 tells us that God will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver. You know what that means? The silversmith doesn't just throw silver in the fire and walk away. He sits, he watches, he waits, and he knows the silver is pure when he can see his own reflection in it. That's what happened to you in that darkness, beloved. God was sitting with you, refining you, until your life became a mirror that reflects his glory. Your radiance isn't about you anymore, it's about him shining through you. But they wanted to dim you because your light exposed their darkness. They called you too much because they were too little. They said you were seeking attention because your authentic glow made their performed happiness look like the counterfeit it was. You know what hurt the most? When they made you question your own light. When they convinced you to apologize for shining. When they made you feel guilty for surviving with grace instead of bitterness. Stop that. Right now. You're not shining for attention. You radiate because heaven lit you up. The same God who said, "Let there be light" in Genesis 1-3, said the same thing over your life. Your radiance isn't optional, it's ordained. It's not performance, it's purpose. It's not seeking attention, it's carrying his presence. When Jesus said in Matthew 5:14, "You are the light of the world," he wasn't talking to the perfect people. He was talking to the broken ones who let him put them back together with golden light in the cracks. He was talking to the ones who learned to shine not despite their scars, but because of them. You want to know why they feel so uncomfortable around your light? Because light exposes, it reveals, it illuminates what was hidden in darkness. Your presence makes their masks itch. Your authenticity makes their performance look exhausting. Your peace in the storm makes their panic in calm weather look foolish. They've been living in darkness so long, they forgot what real light looks like. And when you walked in, carrying heaven's frequency, their spiritual pupils couldn't adjust. So instead of asking for sunglasses, they tried to blow out your candle. But chosen one, you're not a candle. You're a lighthouse. And lighthouses don't dim for storms, they shine brighter. That glow on your face, that's not concealer covering up pain. That's prayer covering you in glory. That's strength in your walk. That's not pride. That's the confidence of someone who knows they've been through hell and came back with resurrection power. Your radiance is proof that God still performs miracles. It's evidence that the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is alive in you. It's a walking testimony that says, if he did it for me, he'll do it for you too. So stop apologizing for your light. Stop dimming yourself to make others comfortable. Stop explaining your glow to people who chose to stay in the dark. Now, I need you to understand something that will change everything moving forward. Being near you is a privilege, not a right. For too long, you've allowed people to treat access to your energy like a public sidewalk when it should be guarded like Fort Knox. You've handed out backstage passes to your soul to people who couldn't even afford general admission to your peace. But that ends today. From this moment forward, they will either rise with reverence or fall under the weight of dishonoring you. There's no middle ground anymore. No lukewarm responses, no casual interactions with the sacred. You remember what Jesus said in Matthew 7-6, "Do not give what is holy to dogs, and do not throw your pearls before swine." He wasn't being harsh. He was being wise. He understood that some people will trample on what should be treasured. You are not a doormat for the spiritually blind. You are not a dumping ground for people's unhealed trauma. You are not a rehabilitation center for those who refuse to do their own inner work. You are sacred ground. And just like Moses had to remove his sandals before the burning bush, anyone who wants to step into your atmosphere needs to come correct. They need to recognize who they're dealing with. They need to understand that proximity to you isn't casual, it's ceremonial. Here's what's about to happen in your life. Watch this. The people who've been treating you like an option are about to discover you were always the answer they couldn't afford to lose. The ones who took your presence for granted are going to feel the weight of your absence like a spiritual drought. Because when heaven removes its favor from those who dishonor its chosen ones, the consequences aren't subtle. They're seismic. Your withdrawal isn't rejection, it's redirection. Your boundaries aren't walls, they're altars. Your no isn't punishment, it's protection for both of you. You are not here to be tolerated. You are here to be revered. Stop apologizing for the power that makes people uncomfortable. Stop dimming your light because others can't handle the brightness. Stop shrinking your presence because they feel small in comparison. The scripture says in Isaiah 60:1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come. Not apologize and hide, not dim down and blend in. Arise, shine. Your time of being undervalued is over. Your season of being misunderstood is finished. Your era of being mishandled has expired. What's coming now is recognition. What's coming now is honor. What's coming now is the kind of reverence that your spirit has been crying out for. If this word has penetrated your spirit, if you feel the truth of it burning in your chest, if you know that something just shifted in your understanding of who you are, comment, "I receive it" below. Let your declaration be heard across this digital sanctuary. And if you're ready to walk with a community of chosen ones who understand your worth, who recognize your value, who honor your presence, hit that subscribe button right now. Don't miss the next prophetic confirmation that's coming your way. But here's what I need you to do immediately. Send this message to someone who keeps forgetting who they are. Someone who's been allowing people to mishandle their sacred energy. Someone who needs to remember that they're not here to beg for respect. They're here to command it. This reminder could save their destiny. Because the world needs you to remember who you are. Heaven is counting on you to stop playing small. Your presence is not an accident, it's an assignment. Now go be the temple you were created to be. Before we close this sacred moment together, I need you to carry these truths with you like armor for your soul. Remember this: you are not an accident wandering through life hoping someone will notice your worth. You are a divine appointment, strategically placed by heaven itself. Your presence carries weight because your purpose carries power. And anyone who gets to walk in your atmosphere is receiving a gift they didn't earn and can't replace. Remember this: the way people treat you is not a reflection of your value, it's a revelation of their spiritual condition. When someone dishonors what God has sanctified, they're not diminishing you, they're exposing themselves. Remember this: your boundaries are not barriers, they're blessings. When you protect your energy, you're not being selfish, you're being stewardly. God gave you that precious spirit to nurture, not to squander on those who can't recognize the sacred when they see it. And here's what I need you to know: in the depths of your heart, you are not walking this journey alone. Even when the nights feel endless and the silence feels overwhelming, the same God who carved your name in the palm of his hand is orchestrating every detail of your story. He's not finished with you. He's not done blessing you. He's not through opening doors that no man can shut. There's a community here, right in this digital sanctuary, of chosen ones who understand your struggle because they've walked your path. We see you, we honor you, and we're praying for you even when you don't ask. But I want to ask you something that will determine how you move forward from this moment. Are you ready to stop apologizing for being who God created you to be? Are you ready to let people earn their place in your life instead of giving it away for free? Are you ready to walk in the reverence you deserve instead of settling for the tolerance you've accepted? Let me pray over you right now, and I want you to receive this blessing like I'm standing right there with you, my hand on your shoulder, speaking life over your weary spirit. Father God, I lift up every chosen one listening to this word right now. I speak peace over their restless hearts and healing over their wounded spirits. Lord, you see how they've been mishandled, undervalued, and taken for granted. You know the tears they've cried in secret and the prayers they've whispered in the dark. But God, I thank you that their story is not over. I thank you that what was meant to break them only made them stronger. I thank you that every closed door was preparing them for the right door. Every rejection was redirecting them toward their purpose, and every betrayal was actually a blessing in disguise. Remember, beloved, you are sacred ground. You are holy territory. You are a privilege, not a right. Now go walk in that truth like the royalty you are. Until next time, keep shining. The world needs your light.